when I was a baby, my dad wanted to call me Elvis.
I don't live my life with regrets, and I don't dwell on anything. I feel like it happened, it must have happened for a reason.
Most kids at 4 years old are still learning their ABCs. Bruno Mars was already learning how to command a stage. While other children played with toys after school, he was putting on 2 shows a night, 5 nights a week. Music wasn't a hobby in his house, it was survival. His family had a small band in Waikiki, and before long, the tiny boy with the big voice became the main attraction. They dressed him in a sparkling jumpsuit and called him Little Elvis. And somehow, he didn't just copy Elvis Presley, he became him. The hips, the swagger, the confidence, it all came naturally. By the time he turned 5, he wasn't performing for small crowds anymore. He stood under the bright lights of the Aloha Bowl halftime show, entertaining 40,000 people like it was nothing. At 6, he showed up on national TV. Soon after, he landed a small movie role and earned $600 in a single day, a paycheck he later laughed about, calling it his first Vegas residency. Before most kids hit middle school, Bruno had already performed nearly 1,000 shows. That kind of childhood doesn't just teach talent, it builds fearlessness. Years later, when he rehearsed for the Super Bowl halftime show, he said it felt like recess. But life doesn't stay bright forever. At 12, everything changed. His parents divorced, the family band broke apart, the stage lights went dark. Suddenly, there was no steady money and no real home. Some nights, Bruno, his dad, and his brother slept inside an old yellow Cadillac. Other nights, they crashed on rooftops. Once, they even stayed in an abandoned bird zoo where peacocks screamed through the night. Showers came from sneaking into hotel pools. Dinner was usually cheap Spam musubi from 7-Eleven. For months, they lived without electricity. Still, he practiced. With no amps, he played guitar under the moonlight. With no nice clothes, he wore thrift store outfits and ignored the teasing at school. To help pay for demo tapes and bus fare, he impersonated Michael Jackson for $75 a night. The struggle didn't break him. It sharpened him. When record labels finally heard his demo in 2003, they didn't see him. They saw a marketing plan. They told him to become the next Ricky Martin and sing in Spanish. But that wasn't his dream. He didn't want to be someone else's version of success. So he chose his own name, Bruno, inspired by wrestler Bruno Sammartino, Mars, because someone once joked his confidence must have come from another planet. At 18, he landed in Los Angeles with just $600, 3 demo CDs, and that new name written on his luggage tag. The first year was rough. He bounced between 4 places to live, cheap motels, crowded apartments, anywhere he could afford. He even lied to get a DJ job without knowing how to DJ. 2 nights later, he was fired. Still, the small paycheck kept his phone alive. Some weeks, 99-cent tacos were all he ate. Then came hope. Motown offered him a record deal, but the contract was only 3 pages long, thinner than a breakfast menu, he joked. The label didn't understand him. They wanted Latin pop. Bruno wanted soul, funk, and everything in between. 9 months later, they dropped him. No songs released, no spotlight, just silence. It felt humiliating, but sometimes rejection is protection. Around that same time, another struggling artist named Philip Lawrence got dropped too. The two became close friends and made a promise. They would create music so good, no label could ignore it. With almost no money, they wrote songs in the backseat of a beat-up Toyota Corolla parked outside a tiny studio. The studio owner had equipment. They had ideas. Payment sometimes came in the form of burritos. Whenever they made something that sounded amazing, they'd yell, "That's a smash." That joke turned into their team name, the Smeezingtons. Day after day, they worked. 10 hours, 6 days a week. They studied hit songs like textbooks and broke down every melody, every drum, every hook. Before releasing even one track, they had analyzed over 1,000 songs. Then, just when things felt stuck again, fate stepped in. Bruno's sister slipped one of his demo CDs to a music executive connected to Dr. Dre. At first, the guy almost threw it away. At exactly 43 seconds into the track, something unexpected happened. Mike froze. Then he rewound it. Bruno had just hit a high note so sharp and clean that it demanded attention. That single moment changed everything. Mike quickly flew Bruno out to Los Angeles for a meeting at Record One Studios. No contract came from it, no big check either, but something just as powerful happened. Someone important finally noticed him. And in LA, being noticed can be the difference between surviving and disappearing. Money was still tight. To stay afloat, they sold one of their own songs, Lost, to Menudo for $20,000. It wasn't glamorous, but it kept the lights on and stopped them from getting kicked out of their apartment. Then came a small win that turned into a huge one. They helped write the chorus for Flo Rida's Right Round. The song exploded, hitting #1 and moving 636,000 downloads in 1 week, a digital record back then. Momentum was building. Next came B.O.B.'s Nothing on You. Another hit, another step forward. By the time Bruno released Just the Way You Are in 2010, songs he had written for other artists had already sold more than 15 million downloads. People thought he appeared overnight. He didn't. His solo career actually started quietly, almost invisibly, with a tiny EP called It's Better If You Don't Understand. 4 songs, 13 minutes. Barely any promotion. By the end of the next year, it had sold only 27,000 copies. On paper, it looked forgettable, but hidden inside that short project were the seeds of something much bigger. 5 months later, everything changed. Doo-wops and hooligans dropped like thunder. Made for just $70,000 with no borrowed samples, the album felt raw and real. Fans connected instantly. It went 7 times platinum in the US and crossed 15 million sales worldwide. In the UK, it stayed on the charts for nearly 8 straight years, longer than classics like Abbey Road and even Thriller. Then the singles took over. Just the Way You Are climbed to #1 in only 8 weeks and stayed on the charts for almost a year. It went 13 times platinum and sold millions. Then came Grenade. During its biggest week, it pulled over 500,000 downloads. It topped charts in 15 countries and even returned to #1 3 separate times, something almost no song had ever done. By early 2011, Bruno had 2 songs that each sold over 5 million copies in the US. Only one other artist had managed that before, Lady Gaga. The industry couldn't ignore him anymore. 7 Grammy nominations followed in his first major run. He didn't sweep the night, but he took home Best Male Pop Vocal, and at just 25 years old, he became the youngest man to win it since Stevie Wonder. Suddenly, he wasn't the underdog. Billboard named him the top 100 hot artist, global sales crowned him the best-selling artist of the year. And still, he kept climbing. When Locked Out of Heaven arrived in 2012, it didn't start big. It debuted at #34. Then, it rose. Slowly, steadily. 11 weeks later, it hit #1 and refused to move for 6 straight weeks. The reggae rock sound felt different from everything else on the radio. While everyone chased electronic dance beats, Bruno went the other way. Live drums, real instruments, vintage energy. In less than 4 minutes, he shifted the sound of pop music. Then came Unorthodox Jukebox. The label wanted something safe and radio-friendly. Bruno had other plans. He mixed disco, rock, reggae, funk, anything that felt alive. The album sounded wild and unpredictable. Executives worried, radio stations hesitated, but Bruno believed in it so much that he gave up 4% of his future royalties just to afford real horns and old-school gear. The gamble paid off. 6 million copies sold within a year. Critics loved its chaos. It felt like flipping through a late-night jukebox. Messy but addictive. Soon, other artists started copying that genre-blending style. Then 2014 hit. Awards piled up, Grammys followed, and right after that came a song that started as nothing more than a studio jam, a rough voice memo, a groove, a feeling. That song became Uptown Funk. It took months to perfect, multiple writers, even lawsuits, but when it finally dropped, it didn't just succeed, it dominated. 14 weeks at #1, hundreds of thousands of downloads every week, millions of daily streams worldwide. It wasn't just a hit, it was everywhere. Clubs, weddings, radios, street corners. You couldn't escape it, and honestly, you didn't want to, because Bruno Mars didn't rise fast. He rose steadily, step by step, song by song, risk by risk. And that's what made the journey different. He didn't explode overnight. He built a legacy brick by brick until the whole world had no choice but to sing along. People couldn't get enough of it. The song wasn't just popular, it felt unavoidable. On Delta Airlines flights, first-class passengers started ordering more drinks the moment it played. In fact, the airline saw a 37% spike in cocktail sales after using it as their boarding music. One employee even joked and nicknamed it Uptown Drunk. Across the ocean, the BBC found another use for it. During a 2015 broadcast, they used the beat to teach CPR because the tempo was perfect for chest compressions. But right when everything looked easy, Bruno Mars faced a surprise roadblock. When he turned in 24K Magic in 2016, the label wasn't impressed. Only 9 songs, just 33 minutes long, shorter than some EPs. They expected more. Bruno didn't budge. He said the album wasn't meant to be long, it was meant to feel like a perfect party tape from the 90s. No filler, no skips, just vibes from start to finish. And he was right. Fast forward to January 2018. The Grammys arrived and the album cleaned house. 24K Magic won Album of the Year, Record of the Year, and Song of the Year, a rare triple crown. Bruno walked away with 6 awards in one night. Streams exploded overnight. That's What I Like jumped 130%. Soon, it went 7 times platinum. By April, the album had sold over 5 million copies worldwide, all without ever hitting #1 on the Billboard 200. Then came the tour, and that's when things got wild. The 24K Magic World Tour ran for nearly 2 years, 215 shows, 6 continents, millions of screaming fans. In New Zealand alone, he broke Beyoncé's attendance record, selling over 48,000 tickets in Auckland. By the final show, the numbers were staggering. 3.5 million tickets sold, $367 million earned, one of the highest grossing tours in history. And every sound on that album, carefully crafted. The talkbox intro nodded to 80s funk. The silky synths paid tribute to 90s R&B legends. Even the Finesse remix was mixed on a 25-year-old console just to capture that vintage flavor. Nothing was random, not even the 9-track count. Bruno modeled it after his favorite old cassette. Critics loved it. Some called the album a masterclass in pop history. Others said it brought real funk back when the charts were drowning in EDM drops. Still, Bruno wasn't slowing down. One night in 2018, he recorded the hook for Gucci Mane's Reek Up in the Sky in under 30 minutes. The song quietly grew into a monster hit, later crossing billions of streams. Then came another moment no one expected. Las Vegas, late night, a packed theater. At 11:47 p.m., Bruno walked on stage in a gold tux. The room went silent. He smiled and said, "Silk Sonic is real." Minutes later, Leave the Door Open dropped, and the world melted. The song shot up the charts, hit #1 in just 4 weeks, and stayed there for 2 months. Billions of streams followed. When the full track finally dropped, it didn't climb the charts. It exploded onto them, debuting at #3 on the Billboard Hot 100. The biggest K-pop female duet debut in history. The music video, drenched in neon lights and flashing color, hit 100 million views in just 19 hours. Records didn't just break, they shattered. 9 months later at SoFi Stadium, Rosé was mid-performance when the lights suddenly died. Total darkness. Then, Bruno walked out. The crowd lost their minds. Sound meters said it was louder than a jet engine. As they sang APT together, 1.2 tons of confetti rained from the sky. That same night, Spotify reported a massive streaming spike, over 80% in just hours. Nearly a year after release, the song was back near the top of the charts like it had never left. Fans kept asking what APT even meant. Finally, Bruno explained. After Party Tango. Inspired by one wild night in Buenos Aires back in 2019, dancing until sunrise. There's apparently a video, locked inside Bruno's phone. Only Rihanna knows the password, he joked. By August 2025, the track had crossed 3 billion streams and helped add $48 million in merch sales to Blackpink's tour. Bruno wasn't just crossing genres anymore, he was owning them. But behind all the lights, the records, and the screaming stadiums, there was something quieter happening. Something personal. Years earlier, in spring 2011, long before Grammys and sold-out arenas, Bruno met Jessica Caban in a small New York hotel restaurant. She'd just finished a modeling audition. He'd just wrapped a show. They locked eyes. For 40 minutes, neither moved. Eventually, he walked over. They talked until 2 a.m. long after the chairs were stacked and the lights were off. Within a year, she left everything and moved across the country to be with him. At first, she slept on an air mattress while he toured the world. Slowly, they built a life. A house, a dog named Geronimo, a quiet home far from the spotlight. Bruno rarely spoke about her. Once, he simply called her my rock, then changed the subject. Even When I Was Your Man, one of his most emotional songs, he described as bleeding on tape. Then, in late 2024, fans noticed something strange. Anniversary posts disappeared. He flew to Tokyo alone. The necklace she gave him turned backward to hide her initials. A fan asked her online if they'd split. Her reply was calm and short. I will always celebrate and be happy for all of his continued achievements. 15 words. The internet exploded. Separate holidays, separate cities, rumors everywhere. Yet no breakup announcement. They still followed each other, still liked each other's posts, still owned the house. No one really knew the truth. And just when things couldn't get stranger, another storm hit. A TV segment claimed Bruno owed MGM Resorts $50 million in gambling debt. Overnight, it went viral. Blogs ran with it, Reddit threads spiraled, talk shows repeated it like fact. The story was too dramatic not to spread. A superstar secretly broke? Perfect headline. But MGM shut it down fast. Clear statement. 2 words. No debt. Major outlets backed them up. Stock prices didn't move. Wall Street wasn't worried. Bruno didn't deny it with a press release. He turned it into a punchline. On stage, he joked, "Ever since they said I owe 50 mil, my phone been dry. Where my friends at?" The crowd roared. Clips hit millions of views overnight. Later, he posted his 150 million monthly Spotify listeners with the caption, "Keep streaming, I'll be out of debt in no time." Every joke made the rumors smaller. Every laugh made him bigger. Because that's what Bruno does. He doesn't fight the noise, he turns it into music. Turns chaos into hits, turns rumors into fuel. And somehow, through broken bottles, sold-out stadiums, love stories, and wild headlines, he keeps dancing forward. Not chasing the moment, becoming it. And maybe that's the real magic. Not the records, not the money, not even the fame. Just a guy chasing a feeling at 4:12 a.m. and leaving the glass in because life sounds better when it's real.